Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Anjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janurandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janurandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Sujabi Hari Jaya Radha Amadava Sujabi Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaras Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Srivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janurandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janurandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Bharati Jaya Radha Amara Punjabi Bharati Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Sorry, we seem to have some technical difficulties with Zoom. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Lord Rishabhadev's Teachings. Text 16. Lokasvayam Shreyasi Nashta Dishtir Yoritan Samihita Nikama Kama Anyonyavera Sukha Lesha Hitor Ananta Dukam Chana Veda Muda Lokasvayam Shreyasi Nashta Dishtir Yoritan Samihita Nikama Kamaha Ayonya Vira Sukha Lesha Hetor Ananta Dukam Chana Veda Muda Lokasvayam Shreyasi Nashta Dishtir Yo Ritan Samyeta Nikama Kamaha Anyonya Vira Sukha Lesha Prahetor Ananta Dukam Chana Veda Muda. Loka, people. Swayam, personally. Shreyasi, of the path of auspiciousness. Nashta Drishtir, who have lost sight. Ya, who. Artan, things meant for sense gratification. Samihita, desire. Nikama kama, having too many lusty desires for sense enjoyment. Ayonya vira, being envious of one another. Sukalesha hitor, simply for temporary material happiness. Ananta dukam, unlimited sufferings. Cha, also. Na, do not. Veda, no. Muda, foolish. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this. Purport. The words Nashta Drishti, meaning one who has no eyes to see the future, is very significant in this verse. Life goes on from one body to another, and the activities performed in this life are enjoyed or suffered in the next life, if not later in this life. One who is unintelligent, who has no eyes to see the future, simply creates enmity and fights with others for sense gratification. As a result, one suffers in the next life. But due to being like a blind man, he continues to act in such a way that he suffers unlimitedly. Such a person is a Muda, one who simply wastes his time and does not understand the Lord's devotional service, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Naham prakash sarvasya yogamayam samavrta mudoyam nabhi jananti lokamam ajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency, the yoga mind. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. In the Katha Upanishad, it is also said, Avidyayam antare vartmana swayam dira. Sorry to those on Zoom. For some reason, the computer keeps either shutting down Zoom or shutting down itself. So we will try to get through it. So this verse is talking about uh, those who are bound in the process of material enjoyment and uh, are pursuing sense gratification. And in doing so, create a society in which they can do that. And then, inevitably, as a consequence of this society, uh, one is uh, plunged into an ocean of suffering. And uh, such people uh, entangled in material enjoyment are referred to as Nostradrishti, those who have lost their sight. Or, as Prabhupada uh, translates it in the purport, one who has no eyes to see the future. One practically sees that uh, in pretty much any field of endeavor in the current age, there is improper leadership. We have been reading in the last verse and more generally about the responsibility of those who are leaders in some way. And whether it's somebody is a father instructing his sons, a king instructing his citizens, or a spiritual master instructing his disciples, uh, there is a responsibility to give good leadership, to give good instruction, which requires uh, eyes to see. At a very uh, basic level, even materially, one has to have an idea of the consequences of one's actions uh, when one is looking at uh, different policies, for example, or how or different actions that one could take. Otherwise, it could actually lead to the opposite of uh, what the intended outcome is. There's actually a historical example of this. When the British were ruling India, there was a problem in some city with cobras. Uh, there seemed to be an overabundance of cobras. So the British said we have to deal with this problem so that the danger somehow or other subsides. So what they did was that they instituted a policy that if anybody brought a dead cobra to some official British building, then they would receive some monetary reward. They would get paid for killing this cobra, and then the hope was that all of the cobras would be hunted, or most at least, would be hunted out of the city. So they did this, and some time passed, and people were coming to collect their payments. But the cobra problem did not seem to be dying down. Uh, so they sent some official people to investigate. They figured out that because of the economic incentive, people were uh, had established cobra farms where they would grow cobras, sell it to uh, somebody for a low price or lower price at least. The person would kill it, take it to the British, uh, and then get a higher price for it for the reward. Uh, so once the British realized this, they stopped uh, giving out the reward, meaning that these cobra farmers had no reason to keep cobras anymore. Uh, so they just all let them out, meaning that there was an even bigger cobra problem than before. This is all because one has the policymakers in that example had no eyes to see the future, to see the consequences of their actions. Uh, and even more, there's the ignorance of karma, of the repeated cycle of birth and death, and the activities by which we are bound therein. Whatever actions we take in this life have consequences in the future lives, or sometimes even in this life later on. Uh, and people do not know this. So, cannot give instruction on how to avoid the repeated cycle of birth and death. Uh, it's mentioned in the verse itself that such a foolish person does not even know about this. The common mentality nowadays, pushed from the highest so-called intellectual sources down to the common person, is to just enjoy life. Enjoy life and give no thought to tomorrow. Uh, because of ignorance of even the basic facts of material existence, which is the repeated cycle of birth and death, uh, there is no knowledge that the activities that one takes will lead to future results. So, they say, one may take any activity that uh, one would like, in order to bring about one's own limited, temporary happiness. Because if there is no next life, either cyclically or even, as many people say nowadays, no, even no life after death, even in the, I guess, more Western conception of the one shot on Earth school of thought, then there's no reason not to do um, whatever one wants. Of course, many people these days uh, take it to mean, we can enjoy uh, whatever food we want, whatever drink we want. We can become intoxicated, uh, enjoy with whoever we want, etc. Although the uh, logical implications of their having no standard uh, are far are more far-reaching than what than just thinking, oh, we can enjoy however we want. Even Western philosophers saw this. Nietzsche referred to it as the death of God, and it was uh, kind of encapsulated in the statement, the brothers Karamazov, uh, that without God, all things are permissible, meaning that there is no, without the standard of the Shastra, of some sort of Shastra at least, there is no standard for right or wrong action, meaning that all things are permissible, that there's no standard for what one should be able to do and what one should not be able to do, uh, meaning that people make up their own standard. And uh, who is to say that one is better than the other? The only way to establish one over the other in that case is power. Somebody has more power than the other, therefore they establish their view of life over the opposing one. Uh, so that without some shastric or scriptural injunctions to rein in the enjoying propensity, uh, everyone just uh, plunges into this mentality of envy. And as it says in the verse in the purport, uh, this creates enmity and fighting with others for sense gratification. Because the nature of sense gratification, of lust, is that it always expands. It is never actually satisfied for any length of time. And so eventually it expands until one runs into a another person expanding and expanding and expanding. And when it does so, that there is enmity between those two people. Oh, I want to enjoy this way, and you also want to enjoy the same way, but there's only one enjoyable object. Therefore, I will fight you for it. There are so many examples of this uh, throughout history, throughout personal examples, through everything. How many times have there been fights uh, over a piece of land? Sometimes not even such a great piece of land that one can't really even live in or cultivate, but still there's fighting. just because one country wants to establish their dominance over another. Or in personal examples, there's a whole uh, class of crimes, or called referred to as crimes of passion, that one sees something which inflames the senses so much that it might be considered even a form of temporary insanity. That if somebody discovers that their partner has been unfaithful, there's so many examples of them even killing the uh, partner and paramour, uh, due to this sense of enmity and fighting with others for sense gratification that others cannot enjoy. Uh, of course, uh, um, yes. So in this entirety of sense gratification, there is always fighting. Uh, and because of pursuing sense gratification, one suffers in this life and in the next life due to the karmic activity that has been accumulated. Because even if one wants to enjoy in a pious way, there is no knowledge of how to do so. One might wish to be uh, pious, one might wish to uh, enjoy in a way to minimize the disruption to others. But because there is no knowledge among the intelligent class of people, there uh, is no direction for how to do so, meaning that such enjoyment leads one to lower birth in future lives. Uh, we see this at many levels. Those who are meant to give direction, uh, the religious leaders, the teachers, uh, do not actually know what leads one to higher births in future lives and what leads one to lower births. We see in many religions, for example, that one may eat uh, whatever form of animal they want. As are sometimes these limited forms of animals. One may kill the cow, and because we have been given dominion over the earth and all of the creatures therein, then there is no reaction for it, even though there is a reaction for killing and eating the cow. Uh, Also, the teachers uh, do not teach proper knowledge of the self, or of the process of the even the basic process of material nature, which is samsara, the repeated cycle of birth and death. Instead, in many universities and throughout many professors, even in their personal lives, they either are philosophically or functionally atheistic. Uh, but many say that there is no God in control. All of this material uh, arrangement, all of the material uh, manifestation is simply through chance, through quantum fluctuations or some other expansionary system or phenomenon, etc. But do not say that but do not recognize that there is an intelligence behind the entirety of the material manifestation. Uh, and even those who might personally believe that, functionally speaking, they would not accept as an explanation anything which does not fit into the materialistic worldview. That everything can be reduced to mathematical descriptions, especially in uh, as what we could call the more fundamental sciences, such as physics and a lot of chemistry. That unless one has a mathematical description of a system, then it is not considered to be an actual understanding, uh, which, of course, will not lead anybody to the proper foundation of material existence, which is actually a person. Material existence comes from the, like spiritual existence, comes from the Supreme Person, Krishna. But because of being bewildered by the material energy, there is a prominent philosophy. The most prominent philosophy is that all of the material world comes by chance, that the material world is self-efficient, that it is self-caused, and that there's no reality beyond the manifestations of material nature. Uh, to actually understand this, one must take shelter of Shastra, that uh, one must see through the eyes of Shastra. And then, whatever one's goal of life, whether that is attaining a better birth in the material world, uh, gaining of knowledge, the mystic powers, impersonal liberation, or the highest goal of devotional service to Krishna, one will be able to see how to actually attain their goal through the uh, process detailed in Shastra. Uh, and one will be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Uh, as it says in the verse that Prabhupada quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, uh, I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I'm covered by my eternal creative potency. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. So the materialistic or procedure of reasoning, uh, of logical deduction and empiric investigation cannot lead one to uh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must follow Guru Parampara. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master and inquire about the nature, activities, appearance, pastimes, etc., of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in doing so, one gains the highest knowledge and knows how to act. That highest of life is devotional service onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uh, and in doing so, one can perfect one's life. And this is a very easy process, especially in this age. Lord Chaitanya came to give us the easy process for which to go back to Godhead in the fallen age of Kali Yuga. One simply must chant Hare Krishna, perform to some devotional service in one way or another, and live one's relatively short life and then go back to Godhead. So we actually have a very nice opportunity to hear from the self-realized people, from the self-realized devotees, especially in the modern age. For all of its faults, the influx or the explosion of communications technology is it makes it very easy to hear from uh, self-realized people, no matter where they are in the world. Yesterday, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj gave class, and people from all over the world could tune in on Zoom or watch later on YouTube. Whereas previously, if some similar situation happened, we would have to wait. Somebody would be with an audio recorder. Somebody would have to make copies of the recording on CDs or something, then send it out. Or somebody would just have to write down what was said and then send it out uh, and make many copies. So we should take advantage for all of the faults of the material of this uh, current age um, of Kali Yuga in general and of the modern age specifically. Despite all of their faults, we should make the best use of a bad bargain and use all of the facility to hear from elevated devotees, to engage in devotional service, and to chant Hare Krishna. So that is all that I have to say. Any comments, questions, additions, subtractions? Ready?
Thank you very much. I like the way you came around from the materialistic viewpoint, lust, anger, greed, and envy, to the simple process of devotion and bringing out the qualities of the Lord in
Hmm.
our lives to understand what is the avenue, take, take, take instruction and advantage of those souls who have realized knowledge rather than trying to find through material nature. So this is a very nice class, actually. What is the verse that is in?
The verse was 5:16, which is due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such persons create a society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this. Thank you.
You're right on point.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Are there any comments, questions, etc. on Zoom?
Thank you for a nice class, Prabhu. I enjoyed that. I especially enjoyed your slithering narration of the attempt to mitigate the snake problem. That was quite humorous. Of course, we see lots of instances of unintended consequences. Leaders of our society attempt to do all kinds of things.
Mhm.
achieve what they're hoping to achieve. So it's instructive. We get the best leadership really from the Guru Parampara, of course, and Shastra. And it's important because in part at least because sometimes, how do I say, the some things are simply not intuitive or actually counterintuitive. What seems like an obvious approach to mitigating a problem or a simple solution is so often not at all that, but serves to exacerbate the problem. And but due to both a poor fund of knowledge and the limits of our reasoning power and sense perception, we're unable to perceive how what seems like the obvious solution is in fact not a solution, or perhaps worse than that. So we have the benefit of vastly superior intelligence and a limitless stock of knowledge in the Vedic literature and the Parampara. We can circumvent all kinds of pitfalls by hearing from an authorized source, and in that way understand what the real solution is. So those of us who have that benefit are very fortunate, and lots of individuals are not so fortunate. It's we then have a responsibility, of course, to help others to become fortunate by sharing that understanding. At least we become miserly, keeping that secret to ourselves. But it requires that we also have to be convinced that we have a real source of genuine knowledge, and is actually of fallible nature. It's not just some good information, perhaps mixed with some not so great information. It's actually all top notch. It's as good as it gets because it's coming from the highest authority. So that faith, that confidence comes gradually with experience. Hopefully, if we're really intelligent, we can understand that without having to go through a process of experience and testing. But at least if we have some intelligence, then with time, we see that it always holds true. And so then gradually our faith develops. Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts. I'm still chuckling at the snake story. That's I find that the foibles of the materialists. There are so many. Yeah, I don't really have much else to contribute. Don't really have any, but I forgot what it was. So perhaps it will come back to me. But thanks again. Always enjoy your classes. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you for your comments, Prabhu. I really like the point that you made about how Shastra is not mixed between good things and bad things, or true things and false things. That it is all infallible, that we just have to realize it. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, I don't see anybody jumping up or unmuting themselves. In that case, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Very well. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But you're still doing some kind of work on
Yeah,
that.
with the BI, yeah.
BI, but also your job.
I've been
You've been working in the regiment, not
just here.
just spiritual. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hmm. Then my friend's house.
How soon were you initiated?
Well, his name was Thomas Walker, and it was a couple of years ago. And the lady on the student was yeah.
Well, a couple of years ago. Could have been a couple of years ago that he was initiated.
It was last summer. I'm pretty sure it was last summer.
Well, hold on a minute. Your name was Phyllis Ruth when I
Yeah.
met you.
Yeah.
And that was that last spring?
I
I
was
mean,
initiated in 2019,
okay. See,
Oh, okay, okay.
but it
I-
was,
I thought it was.
I'm pretty
pretty
sure
long.
it was
when I saw you.
when, yeah,
Well, I wasn't there in the summer, but it might have been May.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so a year ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, it was second initiated.
Oh.
Recent.
yeah.
Who's your spiritual master?
They don't read this one, right? Ah,